Hello everyone, this is Alex. Thanks for joining in again. I must apologise, actually I haven't been online for a while due to personal reasons and that, but anyway, if you've joined me back from part 1, hello again, and if you're new to the channel, thanks a lot for joining me. Hope you subscribe at the end, but anyway, for those of you who don't know what this is about, this is a hobby of mine. Basically I build plastic scale models in my spare time, amongst other things. Watch has been the other one, or one of the other ones I should say. Basically this build I'm doing now is a Jon Egging Tribute build. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Flight Lieutenant Jon Egging was a Red Arrows pilot who was tragically killed at the Bournemouth Air Festival, which is my hometown, back in 2011, so it's 10 years ago this year. Trust me, it really doesn't feel like it. It seemed like yesterday, literally like yesterday when that happened. But if you're unfamiliar, just Google Flight Lieutenant Jon Egging or the Bournemouth Air Festival 2011 and it will give you all the details on that. Cut long story short, my wife was actually a really good friend of John himself, and indeed his wife, Emma, I should say. And I wanted to do something, not just because it's the anniversary of John's passing, but also because just I remember being around at the time when the incident happened, and you know, I wanted to honour John's memory, and indeed, you know, as a tribute to the other Red Arrows as well, because, you know, they're all heroes at the end of the day. So I wanted to honour in my own, I don't know, unique way, if you like. So for me, I think, because this is such a big passion of mine, well, for me personally, it was a no-brainer. So what I'm going to do is, hopefully bit by bit, I'm going to take you through the build. This is for those of you in the modelling circle, this is the Revell 1/32 scale kit. Lovely kit, actually, I have to say, and a real decent size as well. I do enjoy working with 32nd, actually. Nice big parts, plenty of detail to work with there, as you can probably see. Probably won't show up that well on the camera. If it doesn't, I apologise. But no, I absolutely love it. It was absolute bargain, and I just thought, for what I've got in mind, it's absolutely spot on, I think. Generally on the whole, Revell stuff tends to be good anyway. Anyway, I'm waffling on, so without further ado, I'm going to get into the build. And like with most aircraft kits, we start with the cockpit. So predominantly for stage 1, it's going to be the cockpit floor and the cockpit sides, the instruments and the rudder pedals, which are on another sprue, which I think that on one of these sprues in front of us here. So anyway, without further ado, let's get started. So there's 3 main colours predominantly for this first step, which is grey, anthracite and black. Cockpit floor, which is the first bit I'm going to tackle, is grey, so I've got my paint here mixed up and ready to go, so I'm going to make a start now. Now I know that there's going to be people out there saying that oh, you should prime your models, etc, etc. Yep, I get where you're coming from there. Just me personally, I don't know. Outsides, definitely. But I don't know, maybe it's just personal preference. There we go. But certainly, I think for this sort of thing, as long as the paint's thinned down properly and enough coats are applied, it generally comes up pretty well, I have to say. Well, certainly in my experience. Again, as I said, it's just personal preference. So hair there. Let's just remove that. There we go. Just looking at it, paint's a little bit thin, so I think what I'm going to do is just add a bit more before I continue. So bear with me. I'm just going to add some more in with this. I think I went a bit too mad with the water there when I was thinning it down a minute ago, but there we go. These things happen. So let's just give that another mix. Hopefully get it back to the right sort of consistency, thereabouts. That looks better already. Right, let's put on the part, see what we get. Definitely doesn't help with red plastic, I must admit. Particularly for the cockpit parts, you know, it would have made more sense to have moulded them in grey, I think. But there we go. Good old Revell doing what they're doing, and they just make it all red. I know it's a red arrow, but you know. But there we go. As I say, personal preference. Okay, so that's the cockpit floor with the first coat of grey now applied. It's not brilliant. Well, as you can see, it's pretty rubbish actually. It's very whitewashy. The plastic still showing through, as you can see. But it's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately, with this sort of thing. But I'm going to put that to one side to dry. Once it's dry and more coats of grey go on, that will look a lot better. By the time that's had, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 coats, that should be much, well, it should be there or thereabouts. May need a 4th one depending on the thickness of the paint, but we'll see. But for now, at least, that's that bit done. That's had its first coat, so I'll move on to the next bit. So whilst that's drying, I'm now going to tackle the instruments at the side. These are on either side of the seat. They have various instruments on them, like the throttle controls there, which you can probably just about make out. Sorry, it's not very good focus on this, unfortunately, because I'm just using my phone. But the throttle on that is there on that side. But again, this is going to be same colour grey that we've used in the previous step. So I'm just going to grab my brush and on we go again. And again, it's not going to look brilliant because it's only the first coat, but again, like with the floor, hopefully by the time another 2 or 3 coats have been added, it should look a bit more uniform, as they say. Excuse the pun. But for now at least, it's just getting some paint on the surface there as a key, just to cover the red, or the vast majority of it. So just pop that on, brush, deliberately brush it on. Paint's still a little bit thin, so I may have to add a bit more. We'll see how we go. Usually if the paint's thinner though, it does apply a lot better. So I'm going to try and not make it too thick, because that can cause complications further down the line. No, for now at least that will do. As I say, it's just getting the colour on the pieces, just so we've got something there. So that's one side done. So move on to the next one. I'm not sure if this is the front or the rear cockpit. They are pretty much identical, barring a couple of instruments. But on the whole, they are very similar. And just to point out, the colours I'm actually using are Revell's own acrylics. This is their grey, for example, the 374 colour. I think it's the neutral grey, I'm not sure. I will double check and have a look before the end of the video, but I think that's the one it is. But anyway, that's the colour it calls out for. I know it's probably not 100% accurate, but as you'll find out, I do build for accuracy, but then I don't go totally overboard either. I am generally an out-of-the-box builder, which, you know, some people love, some people don't. Again, as I've mentioned before, it's personal preference. It depends how far you want to go with it. But generally speaking, I don't know, I like to see what I can do with the parts I've been given. As a rule of thumb, not in every case obviously, it does depend on what I'm building, and then I just tend to go from there. If it's something that's close to my heart, as you'll find with a lot of builders, modelers, then we do tend to go, you know, that little bit further, because it's a passion, and it's, you know, something we feel strongly about. And that could be anything, whether it's aircraft, helicopters, cars, bikes, trucks, spaceships, literally, you name it. There's groups of modelers out there that are so enthusiastic about what they do, and it's great to see, actually. And, you know, I must admit, I have missed it during lockdown. Missed going to the shows, etc., and the interaction with the community, because it is like a community. You know, we are all very close. We are like a big family in some ways. But hopefully, at some point the shows will resume again, and we'll be back out there displaying again for the public, which is going to be fantastic. And we'll be able to get back to doing what we do. But no, lockdown's certainly been interesting. But it hasn't stopped me doing what I love, and it as I say, I do get a lot of enjoyment from this. So if I do rabbit on about certain things, all I can say is just bear with me. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's just my way of showing, what I love to do. As do so many other people. And I always say it doesn't matter what your interests are. If it makes you happy, then get out there, show the world what it's all about, and just do it, and just be proud of it. Because at the end of the day, as we all know, life is too short to worry about what others think. So my advice to anybody out there is, if you've got a passion, you've got a hobby, something that makes you proud, something you really, really enjoy doing, and that gets you away from the realities of life, if you like, even for just the briefest of moments, then don't hide away from it. Don't hide away from it, and enjoy it. Definitely enjoy it, and don't be afraid to showcase it to others. And I must admit, this is the first time I've actually done a tutorial or a video about my passion, and it's something I've shied away from for a long, long time. Certainly as far as social media has gone, and I think what probably doesn't help is the fact I'm quite a shy person, as you can probably tell by the amount of I'm dropping in there, so apologies for that. But I've just decided in the last few months, I thought, well, you know what, let's just go for it anyway and just see what happens. Because, as I say, at the end of the day, life is too short. And I think, if anything, that's what this pandemic has brought back to us all. So, as I say, if there's a passion of yours, just get out there and make it happen, I think, is the advice I would give to others. And don't worry about what others think. Just get out there and, as I say, show the world what you can do. But anyway, enough of the self-righteous preaching. Right, that's the cockpit sides done, or the insides at least. Again, as you can see, I've just gone over it again briefly, because being acrylic, of course, the paint dries very quickly, which is always handy, particularly in the hot weather. So I'm just going to pop those down there. Oh, apologies, just need to adjust. There we go. And the next bit will be the rudder pedals, which are situated there. Probably just about make them out. They're also grey as well. So just going to get my paint brushes loaded up, and we're just going to give those a quick coating now. So that's one pair done. Again, it's not covered particularly well, but as I said before, I'm not unduly worried at this stage because they will need a few more coats before they're ready for assembly. So for the time being at least, I'm just going to go over the next pair exactly the same way. And I shall let those dry for a few minutes. There we go. As I say, it's not brilliant. I think the paint's a bit too thin still, so I may add a little bit more. We'll see how we go. So that's those bits done. And the final bits for stage one are the control columns, which ask for the grey that we've just used for the majority, and also a bit of black and anthracite where they go into the floor of the aircraft, or the cockpit I should say. So I'm just going to rinse my brush out, and I'm just going to get the parts. There we go, right in front of me, and I didn't even see him. It's always the way, but there we go. So, just going to get some anthracite and mix that in. And there we go, that's nice and thin, and yeah, that's about the right consistency. So just rinse my brush out, and we'll go back to the grey in a second. I think what I'm going to do at this stage is add a bit more paint to the mixture, because as I said, I went a bit crazy with the water. So I'm just going to add a bit more to compensate for that. Hopefully we'll end up with the right consistency this time. Fingers crossed. Let's have a look. Right, let's mix it in, see what we get. And already that's looking more promising. So looking for about the consistency of milk, or so I'm frequently told. That's about the correct paint consistency. So let's just have a look. Right, we've got one control column here. So the majority of that is, as I say, grey. So I'm just gonna apply some on there now. Let's see how we get on. It's looking good. Looking very good, in fact. And as you can see, that's actually applied a lot better. I've just added a bit more paint, and that's gone on much nicer. There's a lot less plastic showing through. That's a good sign. Very good sign. So basically now I'm just going to go through and give the whole control column a coat of grey. Excuse me. And then whilst that's drying, I should then apply it to the other control column. I've got a bit of paint there that I shouldn't have, but that's fine. I should go over that in a second. So that's that one done. So I'm just going to pop that one to one side and then go for the other one, which is there. Still got loads of paint on the brush, so I'm just basically going to go over and do the same again. And the dogs are going mad, as you can probably hear. Well, there you go, someone's found the treat box. That's why they've gone quiet. So I've just touched that in. So, okay, so that's those done. In fact, whilst I'm at it, I might actually go over the rudder pedals again as they look dry. So we'll give those a second coat. So that's the rudder pedals done. As you can see, they've actually turned out, that's with a second coat of paint, and they've come out a lot better, looking better already, as you can see. So I'll put those to one side. I'm just going to do the other set now. So we'll get them looking nice and ready to go. So hopefully shouldn't need a third coat, but you never know. May end up giving them a third coat anyway. But we'll see what happens. Okay, so that's the other rudder pedals done, and again they've come out much better with a second coat. So I shall put them with the others to dry, and I am now going to turn my attention back to the cockpit floor, which was the first bit there. That paint's now completely dry, so I'm just going to go over it once more and apply a second coat of grey. And as you can see, that's actually going on much better. I've managed to sort out the paint consistency. It's just about right now. It's actually going on very nicely. So that's good. Okay, so that's the cockpit floor done, and after 2 coats, that's looking much better. So yeah, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to pop that down. As I say, that can be left to dry. And then it's back to the instrument panels on the side, or either side of the seat. So I'm just going to go over those again. Just going to make sure, yep, those are bone dry, or touch dry at least. So I'm just going to go over them again. That's looking better already. Bubbles there, yep. That's looking much better, in fact. It can be tricky sometimes getting, as I say, getting the paint consistency right. It's always a challenge, I think. It doesn't matter if you hand brush or whether you use an airbrush. Sometimes it's too, you make it too thick or you make it too thin. It's always a constant bugbear trying to get that right. But as I say, everybody's got their own methods and products and how they go about it. So it's just one of those things. It's, whatever works for you, and that's fine. As I say, I did have an airbrush, but I've generally gone back to the old school method of paintbrushing, or using the hairy stick as we call it, in the circle. Just because I enjoy it more, I think. I think it's because it's minimal fuss, or a lot less fuss and hassle, a lot less time to set up, and I don't know, I find it just, for me personally, it just relaxes me down a lot more, and I just enjoy it more, as I say, doing it this way. No brushes are fantastic, don't get me wrong, but I don't know whether it's because I just haven't got on with one personally. I've played about with it and I've used it. Have varying degrees of results, you might say. Some projects, if you like, have turned out well. Others I've just looked at and gone, no, I really don't want to keep that. I just wanted to bin it. I didn't, but that's how it's made me feel at the time. But I don't know. Maybe I just don't like the hassle. I've just tried to set it up, getting the paint right, and then at the end of it, it's all the cleaning up, taking it apart, etc. Putting clean thinners and cleaner through it, and then having to redo it because there's dried paint in there that you missed from the first time. And I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But no, I have to say, since going back to using the paintbrush or the hairy stick, as I say, I'm just enjoying it a lot more. So just think I'll just keep it going with this technique for now. Who knows, I might change my mind again in the future, maybe not, but we'll see how things go. But for the time being, at least, I'm much happier doing it this way. Doing it the traditional way, you might say. So there we go. That's the cockpit sides done. and given a second coat, and again looking much better, as you can see. So I'm going to pop those down, and I'm just going to wash my brush out. Still a bit more paint in there, so I'm just going to clean that out a bit more. And then dry it off a bit more with the kitchen towel. So at this point I'm just going to put the brush in a bit more thinners just to get more of the paint out. There's a couple of stubborn bits in there that aren't shifting, so I'm just going to roll that around. I'll do it once more for good luck. And that's better. Okay, so we've got those last bits of remaining paint out. So as I say, those bits are now done. I'm just going to leave those to dry, and in the meantime I'm going to apply the two remaining colours to the control columns, or the stick as you might call it. Grey on those is pretty much dry now, as you can see. So what it's calling for now is we've got anthracite, yep, on the bottom there, just where the control column goes into the cockpit floor, and then matte black at the top, where the pilot or the crew member takes hold. So I'll probably do the anthracite first. So get my brush loaded up and just give it light coat. There we go, that's the first one done. Now for the other one. So I'm just going to swap those over. I can get up to dry, and then I shall do this one. And that's the anthracite done. There's a bit of touching up that we'll need to do on the grey, but that's fine. I'll get on to that once the remaining colours have dried properly. But for now at least, that's fine. I should just leave that to dry. Right, that's the brush cleaned out. So all that remains is just to pop So matte black on the top of the control column, which I'm just going to do now. Just bear with me a sec. Paintball, there we go. Again, just to get the consistency right. So that's about right. Yep, the joys of painting over red plastic. Really about primer. Okay, so that's one control column done. So I should just leave that to dry. And I shall do the top part of the other one. And voila, there's the other one. And one thing I do need to do is just paint on the throttle controls on the instruments on the side here. So I'm just going to refer back and have a look. It's not really clear there what bits need doing, so what I shall do is I shall just refer back to the photographs on the box. Now let's just see. If not, what I shall do is I shall just pull up some reference photos from Google and various other sources and get around it that way if possible. And just looking at it now, I think I can work out which bits need doing in anthracite, or matte black I should say. Going to need a smaller brush for this because it's moving on to sort of fine detail work. So just gonna grab one of my smaller brushes, bear with me. Looking at it, it's quite, I think in actual fact what I might do is the technique I picked up from a friend a few years ago actually. That is, I'm going to need a different one I think. That is to use a cocktail stick. I should explain here. Don't know if you can see, but the detail there is quite, as you can see, even in this scale, it's quite minute. I don't have a brush small enough, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my trusty cocktail stick just to dip in the paint, and we'll apply the detail that way, and then all being well, we should, fingers crossed, be able to apply it without getting it where we don't need it. In theory, he says. Right, here we go, wish me luck. steady hand definitely required for this. I can confirm. But I have to say, so far, it's going according to plan. I don't know if you can quite see that on the camera there. I apologise. I know the zoom isn't brilliant, but hopefully we'll get that resolved in future episodes. I shall just highlight it here. What I've done is I've just picked out some of the details in anthracite, or matte black I should say. They're just things. Let me just. So there we go. Hopefully that's a little bit better. As I said, if not, I apologise. But what I'm doing here is I'm just picking out the details in matte black with cocktail stick here. As I say, there's raised details there, and they're very, very minute. You might not even be able to make them out on the camera here. But cocktail stick I find them much easier to apply the details. So I'm just going to go over those, so bear with me, and I will show you once that stage is complete, and then hopefully we'll move on to the next section. But there we go. I do like a challenge, as they say. There we go. You probably can make it out better at this angle, but yeah, that's just basically what I've done. It's just over the raised detail here. I'm going to do the other side, and of course I'll do the other bit as well as soon as I've done this bit. Sorry, just move it down a bit there. There we go. So yeah, so I've just gone over the raised parts there, just to bring that detail out a little bit more. As I said, I'm going to do the other side once I've finished this part, and then we'll continue, as I said, with the next bit. So bear with me. And I've managed to fudge up one bit there, which I'll show you in a moment. Yeah. Right, there we go. So I'll just show you there. Turn that around a bit. Right, as you can see there, I've just finished going over the raised detail. I've got a bit there on the grey, but having said that, don't think it's going to be too noticeable by the time it's all assembled and the cockpit's put together. I probably won't notice that, but me being the perfectionist I am, I'll probably end up going over or redoing that part. But we'll see. If I can get away with it, then I'll get away with it. Fingers crossed. So anyway, as I said, that's one side done. I'm now going to go and do the other side, and then we'll do the next bit for the front or rear cockpit. I can't remember which one that is, but we'll find out at some point, no doubt. So bear with me. So there's the next bit done. Again, I've managed to get some black on the areas I shouldn't have. As I said, I'll leave the paint to dry and I shall just go over that with some more grey. So that's one side done, and now I'm just going to do that side just to finish that bit off. So once again, bear with me. Okay, so just to show you, I've just gone over those bits. I've gone a bit overboard again, I should say, with those bits, but no biggie. As I said, I'll just let the paint dry, which it's drying pretty quick in this weather, I have to say. So joys of modelling in the summer, so that's fine. As I said, I shall leave that to dry. And then I shall just go over that with some more grey, and then we'll go from there. But there we go. It's just, as I said, it just brings out a bit more of the detail. So all being well, that will be looking top notch again. There's the cockpit floor, as you can probably just about make out from here. I'm not sure. Still some red showing through, so it's the final part for today. I'm just going to go over that grey section one more time, as if my paint hasn't dried up. Oh no, that's good. So as I said, I shall just go over that once more. Just do this whole piece. Give it one final coat, that'll make it the third, and then hopefully that should suffice. So just apply that now. Okay, there we go. So that's with the floor having had the third coat, hopefully the final one. As you can see, it's actually covered very, very well. There's virtually no red plastic showing through, which is good. So I'm going to leave that to dry, and in the next episode we'll look at finishing off these last few parts and then assembling that bit there, which will be putting the cockpit sides on and the control sticks and the rudder pedals in place. That will conclude part one, or build step one I should say. So thanks very much for joining me. Hope I didn't waffle on too much. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates. And all being well, I will see you all for part 3. Thanks very much for joining, guys. Okay, take care and stay safe out there. Okay, bye.